Hello, this is Dave Travels Through Time, Channel 2, and I'm going to be doing my review of The Green Death. So I saw it a few weeks ago and I quite enjoyed it. And it's a 6-part story. It's written by Robert Sloman, who would also write Planet of the Spiders in Pertwee's final season. This is Pertwee's second to final season. This story was the final story of his 4th season, and this dealt with global chemicals. And it dealt with the anti-organization against global, the anti-group against global chemicals called the Nutheads, which was the more hippiest group, led by Professor Jones, played by Stuart Bevan, who was against this totalitarian corporation that was, for pollution, even though it's saying it's against pollution, but it's actually releasing more oil and more pollutants into the air. And Joe Grant wants to investigate this global chemicals and meet Professor Jones at the Nutheads. Now, the third Doctor, John Pertwee, wants to just go to Metebeus 3. He doesn't want to, he really wants to go to Metebeus 3, but Joe Grant isn't really interested at that point. So the Doctor goes off to Metebeus 3 while Joe goes with the Brigadier. And then, of course, Brigadier has a lovely conversation with Stevens, and it doesn't go over too well. And then, of course, Joe Grant gets to finally meet Professor Jones, and then she joins up. She goes in the mines with Bert. Unfortunately, Bert, sadly, he dies from the infection down there. What's basically the Green Death. Then, of course, we get introduced to these maggots. Basically, they're from the global chemicals. And then, of course, Elgin, he gets halfway into the story. He gets switched over to Mr. James because the actor that played Elgin fell ill. So then they cast Roy Skelton, who did the Dalek voices, in the role of Mr. James. And then, of course, Captain Yates, appears halfway through the story as well, appearing to be, he's going undercover for the Brigadier, to discover what's going on with global chemicals. And I like that John Pertwee has a few funny scenes in the story where he plays the milkman, and then he plays the maid. I thought that was quite funny. And then, you get this hilarious reaction from Mike, when he sees him in the maid outfit. And it's fun. And then, of course, Mike gets under the control of Stevens, unfortunately. He gets processed, but then the third Doctor is able to, unprocess him and basically go back to normal. And it's a good story. And then, of course, we find out who's really behind global chemicals is the computer boss, voiced by John Druth, who would also play a role in Planet of the Spiders. And it's a pretty good story. There's not really too many faults about the story. I actually quite enjoyed it. There's a lot of twists and turns in it, and there's a lot of suspense. And I think it's pretty well. The only thing that's a little wonky, but, you expect it from some of the effects back in the day, is like the sort of the bug effects of the one flying, in the air. Looks a little wonky, but, the CSO work. But other than that, it's a really good story, and I quite enjoy it. Then, of course, we find out, the departure of Joe Grant, of course, who gets married to Cliff, and they did have a relationship in real life as well. And, there's kind of, and then, of course, the third Doctor sadly drives off into Bessie, at the very end, and that's the end of the story. And then Stevens ultimately sacrifices his life at the end, against the boss. And, overall, it's a very good story. I give this one really high marks, and I really quite enjoyed this story. And, everyone gives a good performance, from John Pertwee to Katie Manning to Nicholas Courtney to all the actors involved, Cliff Jones, Stevens, everybody, Mike Yates, everybody gets top marks in this one, and I quite enjoyed it. And I give it a 9.5 out of 10. Yeah, it's one of the few unit stories that are Earthbound that I give really high marks. Like I said before, I'm more a fan of the, You know, when the Doctor was obviously able to go out of, you know, Sly Marines I gave an 8, didn't I? I gave an 8, I think. 8.5, because I generally like the ones that are like on other planets even more, when they're stuck on the Earthbound when he's in exile. But still, 9.5, really close to a 10. Really good story. And I quite enjoyed it. So anyway, hope you enjoyed my review of The Green Death. Alright guys, take care. Peace. Hope you have it, and if you like what you see, please like, share, click the notification bell if you really like what you see. If you haven't yet, subscribe to my channel. Alright, bye for now.